Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's work on that. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Broadcasting live on YouTube, X, all of the X's, I think, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble, and simulcast by our wonderful friends over at KLRN Radio. Make sure you check them out. Got a lot to talk about this evening. There we go. Fade that nicely. Fade it, fade it. Got a lot to talk about. But first, have you ever seen... I do my show setup, and I'll tell you, for the 5 minutes before my show starts, I'm in one of two places. I am either just sitting here watching the clock and staring and waiting, or I'm frantically trying to get everything ready at the last minute as the show intro is putting on and putting my earphones in and yada, yada, yada. So tonight, because my wee one was here earlier and she had to do her tutoring because we want her to be super smart, she was using my desk, my setup, my little studio that I have in my house. And now everything's out. The seat was a different height. The mic was in a different place. The earphones were, it was just a whole hot mess. So I'm finally able to get caught up, and I'm sitting here prepping, just kind of getting the last few minutes of show prep in. And I see this tweet. And if you ever saw a tweet, Cosmic Bard's in the chat. He says, "Scallywag, I'll have you know I am a rapscallion." If you go to the tweet, I send you guys little welcome messages when the show starts, by the way, so you'll understand what he is talking about. If you go to YouTube and jump in the live chat, Ordy's first. No matter when Ordy gets here, he is first. Ordy's in the chat as well. Thank you, gentlemen. So yeah, I saw this tweet just before it went on the air, and it blew my mind. And it's one of those tweets that makes me feel like maybe I'm not the dumbest human being that's ever walked the planet. This was posted by the National Weather Service in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Because so many people were searching during the earthquake last evening, the 8.8 that happened off the coast of Russia, it caused some damage up by Russia. Hey, Mike, welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for being here. But overall, it caused some small tsunamis. Nothing, fortunately for everybody, nothing too bad. But this got people to start looking online if there was a tsunami near Fargo, North Dakota, or was there a tsunami near North Dakota? Enough people apparently were concerned about North Dakotan tsunamis that the National Weather Service in Grand Forks had to say there is no threat for tsunami impacts in North Dakota. I can't believe I'm having to read this. If you're in a coastal area under threat, however, check tsunami.gov for up-to-date information with local officials for any evacuation orders. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, on the days where maybe I'm like, maybe I'm not like the smartest guy that's ever been, and then I read something like that and I'm like, well, I'm not doing too bad. I mean, let's be honest. I could be a lot worse. I could be 100% this guy. Old Spartacus.
Integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me, because there's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights and secret police are running around this country.
What secret police? Hold on. Listen, Spartacus. What secret police are running around? They're ICE. They're all labeled ICE. They have badges. They're no different than any other plainclothes pseudo-tactical cops that are out there. Dear God, Spartacus. And that was, I will tell you something. The amount of I need to be unhinged and loud and excessive in politics right now, trying to almost mimic the same energy as Trump when he says things that he says, and he gets loud and he gets direct and he says things that piss people off. But this is all acting. This is all this is. This is play acting. It's amazing to me. He went on for like a half an hour or something, and it got absolutely worse if you watch the entirety. So that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you're dealing with. I got to catch up in the chat. Ricky's in the chat talking about Orty. I mean, he's the only Amish of the chat, so technically he's always first. Yes. How the heck did he get the #1 spot? They're arguing who's getting the crown in chat. If you're on YouTube and chatting, you would understand. So the Maladroid is here. Yes. BZ's in the chat. Whatever happened to Rosario Dawson? Or he shaved his beards after the primaries. Oh, gosh. The chat room is always fun and exciting. And like I said, you can be a part of it. And if you really wanted to be extra special, you can always shoot a tip or a gift or a super chat if you really, really wanted to. Speaking of unbelievably, I don't know what the word is. Tone deaf, or maybe this isn't tone deaf. Maybe this is more of outright fear of being called out. Here's Nancy on with Jake Tapper, of all people.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come talk about.
But I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made, the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think
this very much comes from the mindset of you'll find out what's in it when we pass
doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this.
Don't worry
but
about
I
it.
have no
concern
about the obvious investments that had been made over time.
She then went on to say, I am not into it. My husband is into us. Now, couple things you gotta, and I can play that for people that really want to see Nancy say it. I don't know why you'd want to, but here, I'll play for you.
But it isn't anything to do with anything insider.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? Made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is.
There it is. My husband's into it. So they talk about nothing, absolutely nothing when it comes to the stock market. It's only Paul Pelosi who happens to be paying attention to that, right? You remember Paul Pelosi? He was a guy who got a little hammered one night. And then there was also the incident where they had a home invasion. For those who didn't get both references, Paul Pelosi was arrested for DUI a couple of years ago, and then the home invasion incident happened not long after that. But, hey, here we are. So her husband is into that. She's not. Nancy, who gets all the insider information, remember, and if you ever followed, I think it's Nancy Pelosi Stock Trades on X and the website, they actually started a kind of an investment app where they will make the same plays that Pelosi's making that she has to report, and you can invest money and make as much money as she is. If you've ever followed how much money she'll make, I'll tell you right now, NVIDIA last year, unbelievable example of there was talk that there's going to be a deal in the CHIPS Act and NVIDIA was going to go way through the roof. This is all under Biden. And amazingly, Paul Pelosi, the day before that information came out or so, something like that, bought a whole bunch of it. So, yeah, I mean, her husband's into it, but they hardly talk, for God's sakes. He only hangs out with guys in his underwear, is what I've heard. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, to be honest with you. Just know it's a possible thing. It happens here and there. Another weird story, and this is one where I know people are going to jump all over. FBI Director Kash Patel has reportedly found thousands of Russian hoax documents inside burn bags inside a secret room at the FBI. Now, folks, first and foremost, if you still deny that the Russian hoax is real, in other words, if you still say, oh no, that was all true, and the Steele dossier and all that stuff, it's all legitimate, the Republicans are just making all this stuff up, but come contact me, Sean at shrmedia.com. I'd like to talk to you about bridge deals and oceanfront property in Arizona. I do want to give Kash a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. I would bet, because of the people that are still in the FBI, that those were moved around probably a few times, and eventually he got up. They were playing cat and mouse with that because they had to somehow get it out of the building to actually burn them and destroy them. That wasn't able to happen before it happened, or before he found it, I should say. It didn't happen before it happened. Really good on the mic tonight, eh, Sean? Good job there, pal. So it's just... it just goes to show you how dirty the FBI under the previous administrations were. I am trying to get caught up in chat. So many people, Mission Ready Men's in chat, BZ's in chat. Let's see. I'm trying to get caught up, but guys, I appreciate you all being here. I really do. If you're on YouTube and any other places, go to the YouTube, click search SHR Media, click the live stream, come into the chat, make yourself known. If you're watching on Facebook, make yourself known. Wherever you're watching from, just say hi. You don't have to get involved too much. Just say hi. Are you having a failure to pod tonight? I am not having a failure to pod tonight. It was just a little bit of chaos. Some more good news, and I wanted to talk about this too from Capitol Hill. The Senate has approved Joe Kent's nomination. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you all. As the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. And you may not know about Joe Kent. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Joe Kent is, well, kind of the guy that they make movies about, right? If you really look into what Joe Kent is all about. Let's see, he's a Green Beret with 11 deployments, who's a former CIA paramilitary ops officer. Ran for Congress in 2022 and 2024. In 2019, his wife, Shannon, who was a Navy cryptologist, was killed in a suicide bomber in Syria in 2019. And most recently, he served as DNI for Tulsi Gabbard. He knows terrorism. He knows what he is fighting. He knows the job. So much so that Sarah Adams, who was survived the Benghazi attacks, a former CIA official herself, said he understands terrorists and gave praise to the appointment of judgment. And I'll tell you something, if you don't read, follow, and listen to Sarah Adams when it comes to the world of terrorism, you are doing yourself a gigantic disservice, because she is absolutely brilliant. So I think that's awesome news. I think it's good that we're moving in the right direction when it comes to terrorism. Look, terrorism is one of those things that we've been fortunate, I will say that, but we've seemingly kind of forgets it's still out there, and we need somebody who actually is going to handle it, somebody who knows it, understands it, and will respond appropriately. Now, I am not for getting into wars overseas. I don't want to do any of that stuff, but at least we have to have somebody who's on the knife's edge, keeping things from coming here. And I think Joe Kent is 100% the guy to do that. So I'm actually finally getting to what's on my list to talk about. All this other stuff is just stuff that I've kind of seen as we've gone along. I had Joe Kent on here, but then it came up kind of quickly, so I figured I'd cover him first. I want to introduce you to this guy. This guy, his name is Guillermo Medina Reyes. He is protected from ICE. And what I mean is he has a restraining order that was issued by a California judge against ICE. I'm going to say that again. A California judge gave him a restraining order to protect him from ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Well, that's weird. Why would you need that unless you were illegal, right? He knows he's illegal. He knows he's not supposed to be here. So what did he do? Well, he gets a restraining order against ICE. Oh, by the way, he's also served over 10 years in prison for attempted murder. Numerous people, including community organizers and this activist judge who issued, and her name is Federal Judge Rita Lynn, issued the restraining order. Sorry, it wasn't a state judge. It was a federal judge. My apologies. And where is he? I want to get him on screen so he gets his due process. This is from NBC Bay Area, but there's a little bit more about him. This was taken on the 15th.
Guillermo Reyes was at a rally outside federal immigration court in San Francisco, where his attorneys argued the tattoo artist should remain out of ICE.
Tattoo artist. That's what he is. He's a tattoo artist. He didn't serve 10 years in prison for attempted murder. He didn't 2 weeks after, which is just, I think, a couple days ago, after getting the restraining order, did he get arrested for theft, vandalism, and stealing a car with a toddler inside. If he had knowledge that the toddler was inside, that would be considered kidnapping in most normal states. If he didn't know, he still stole the car and put a baby's life at risk through his criminal actions. And a federal judge issued him a fucking restraining order. Doesn't that look like the typical nice guy that you'd want to have? He's just a tattoo artist, folks. Come on. It was only attempted murder that he did 10 years for. And yes, he's here illegally. That's why he got the restraining order against ICE, because he knew his ass was going to get scooped and kicked. By the way, and I just want everyone's opinion on this. Should I do this? The little hair tattoo thing when my hairline's gone? Should I just actually tattoo that in my head? Tattoo hair in where it used to be? I mean, just saying. Could really improve the look. Oh, look, the Phantom finally decided to join the chat. Late, as always, there will be a demerit to the Phantom for being late. You will not be the crown number one this evening, madam. Since January, ICE has done the following, and this is through June 2025, just to follow up on it, because we haven't talked about it in a few weeks. 204,300 ICE bookings as of June 25. That's a lot. That is since, well, really, end of January is when everything got operational and rolling for the most part, because they were still setting up a lot of stuff. 214 of those arrests in the Houston area were illegal aliens charged and convicted with children's sex offenses. There's also, if you haven't, I mean, this is something, I've said this before on the show, and it's absolutely just spellbinding. The amount of sexual abusers being arrested in Massachusetts that are illegal is blowing my mind. Bill Melugin over at Fox News, I'll give Bill Melugin a ton of credit. He has been posting about this every single day. Even if you don't like Bill Melugin, even if you don't watch Fox News, follow his X, because he updates this constantly. BZ, the one place that I say this all the time, my hair grows like wildfire from the eyebrows down. So none of that has to be tattooed. I'm born with a natural sweater. I am actually hot, usually in short sleeves when I'm outside in the wintertime. So that's where ICE is going right now. And you got to ask yourself, we've seen so many advocate judges. When are we going to see the removals? When are they going to start being impeached and removed? They are just absolutely politicized. We heard that they had to pack the courts because the Republicans were politicizing the courts, right? Oh, this all happened under the last administration. It was always about how, when conservatives can take over, they're going to politicize this, and they're going to make it all about politics, and they're going to make great politics, and it's all politics. from day one of the Trump administration, you have had judges who, and oftentimes, had absolutely no standing to make a ruling whatsoever, like the deportations, make rulings that have done nothing but cost time, taxpayer money, and put the general public at risk for politics. We've heard it over and over again from the news media who supports this and says things like, oh, it's a Maryland dad. Oh, it's a tattoo artist. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. They never call them what they are, which are illegals. Oftentimes, illegals who've committed horrific crimes in this country. People that shouldn't be here. I saw one where a guy was deported. He's been in the country illegally for 22 years. And his daughter said, well, he didn't get it because of pride. He could have gotten it. He has plenty of opportunity, but he didn't do it because of pride. Of what? Reaping the benefits of living in America and making American money, but not giving up your citizenship in the country that you left? There's no pride in that. And some people might call it thievery. And I will tell you, there's a word for it. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know for a fact, BZ will probably chime in with the actual terminology for it. People who come here make a ton of money and send the majority of it home, and the dollars don't get spent here in America. Yeah, they spend it for like food and stuff like that they need to exist. Oftentimes, they live in houses with 20 people in them, and they're just living and they're paying squat for rent. They're oftentimes committing crimes, as we've seen, and they're sending all their money back home. And then what happens is they get to a certain point where they've accumulated enough wealth in their home country that they return to said home country and build themselves a beautiful house and live like kings down there. What does that do for this country? You know, I've seen it this week. There's another lawmaker. I think she was in North Carolina, a state lawmaker. I forget her name. Idiot something or other, which I think is Swedish. I'm pretty sure that's Swedish. But who's saying, you know, the crops aren't being picked, the houses aren't being built. This is a tragedy. And, you know, we saw Spartacus earlier saying, oh, you know, there's secret police pulling people off the streets. No, they're not secret police. And to the woman in North Carolina, you really enjoy slave labor that much that you're campaigning on it, that you're making political statements about it? Can you imagine if a conservative said that? If the roles were reversed, let's just say on immigration alone, if our party, our side of the aisle, the conservatives, were pro-immigration, illegal immigration, and we turned around and said, who's going to pick your crops and cut wages? Who's going to cultivate your marijuana cheaply because they're illegal juveniles on a marijuana farm that's giving money to the governor of California? They would absolutely lose their mind. Look, we saw them lose their mind because a hot chick wore a pair of jeans and they made a play on words that she has good genes. You saw how they reacted to that. And it absolutely nails home once again. Everything the Democrats accuse us of is who they are. They always say, oh, we're going to get away. The rich have to go down, and the rich are the problem in this country, blah, 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 blah. Look at all the Democrats in Congress who are filthy fucking rich. And they want to keep it that way. And it's not just Democrats in Congress. There's absolutely conservatives in Congress, too, who are filthy rich and want to keep it that way. But look at this. This is Senator Ron Johnson. And this is a conversation about trade ban. But listen to what he says when he's voting against Hawley's proposal to ban congressional stock trading. Listen to what they say, and it tells you
anybody willing to do
know
it.
about them.
We make it very unattractive for people to step up to the plate and run for office or potentially serve in office. I tried hiring a retired CFO many years ago. This after the passage of the Stock Act. Would have been great. I could have had somebody really expert in international taxation, that type of thing. I could not find anybody willing to do it. So this piece of legislation, really, it's legislative demagoguery. We do have insider trading laws. We have financial disclosure. Trust me, we have financial disclosure. The press pays attention to it. So I don't see the necessity of this. I can imagine all kinds of unintended consequences. You could relabel this law, quite honestly, the Career Politician Protection Act, because it'll make it so unattractive for people to give up their business,
Yes.
sell it,
Okay.
unless some ethics committee says, oh, no, there won't be a conflict of interest. I mean, there's when we pass a tax law that lowers tax rates,
do you hear this shit?
we all benefit.
This is what's amazing to me. And this is, look, I'll do you the research. Most senators make $174,000 a year. Who amongst you listeners would give up whatever job you have right now to make $174,000 a year to go to Congress and actually do what's right in this country? I would, in a heartbeat. I'm unelectable. I know I'm unelectable. All they would do is start playing some of my shows, and I'd be like, yeah, no, a lot of people aren't going to vote for you, and that's fine. Never mind if they start interviewing ex-girlfriends. But yeah, $174K a year. Plus, they get speaking engagements. They get all of this stuff that, yeah, they have to disclose, but it's all gifts. So, if you pass insider trading, then people won't come and rich people won't run the country and make sure that little people get, you know what? That's the best thing. That's the best thing that could happen to this country. That's how this country used to be run, by people that actually wanted to serve the other citizens in this country, to do it for service, not to do it for finances. And once again, they will come right out and tell you who they are. And it's absolutely disgusting that would even, look, politically, you're a fool if you don't agree with banning Congress from trading stocks, right? You're a fool. Because even the left agrees, most left voters agrees, that Congress shouldn't be into stock trading, as we saw with Nancy Pelosi earlier. That's exactly why. Because at some point they get so rich and drunk that they think they can just say anything and nobody's ever going to hold them accountable. But to turn around and say, we can't get any good people, folks, that means you and I, he doesn't consider good people. People that work hard every day and have so their entire life, that raise a family, that oftentimes have to live week to week, sometimes less, just to make ends meet. People that understand what their fellow citizens go through because they actually talk to them, not in town halls where everything's orchestrated, not in events like, going out and meet selected people who are told to ask you a certain question, then you respond, as we saw with Kamala. By the way, I do have some Kamala news, and I know the Phantom just Bigfooted me on it, but I'll talk about Kamala just before the break in the bottom 3 minutes here. But they're telling you that you are not good enough in Congress because we have to sell a business. If you can sell a business, you don't need $174K a year. How about this? If you're worth a certain amount of money, then maybe you should draw a zero salary like the president does. Donate it all. It should all have to be donated. But rich people in Congress and people who don't know what it's like in the real world are huge fucking problems in this country. And before everyone points to Trump, let me tell you something. Find somebody who talks to normal people like Trump talks to normal people. Because at least Trump talks to normal people. He meets with them. How many times have you seen videos with him, even when he wasn't in office, in Mar-a-Lago where they're having an event? Yeah, it's hard to rent at Mar-a-Lago, but that doesn't mean all the people there are rich. How many times do you see him talk to kids? All this other, none of these Congress people do that. None of them do. Everything now is staged. Everything's Eric Swalwell lifting 115 pounds who, oh God, I should be voting right now, but I am having I'm so swole. I'm so fucking swole. Just stop with the bullshit. If you haven't seen that video of Eric Swalwell benching, go laugh your ass off and find it. It is the funniest thing in the world. And then he called out, he said he had no idea who Greg Gutfeld was, which we all know is a lie, and told Gutfeld that if he could out bench press him, then if Gutfeld wins, Swalwell leaves Congress. If Swalwell wins, Gutfeld gives up his show, and I hope Gutfeld takes him up on that. As the phantom Bigfooted me and said, great news for California and great news potentially for Republicans. Kamala Harris is not going to run for California governor, which is fantastic. And that means she's probably going to run for president, which honestly is even more fantastic because we can't get enough Kamala. Let's be honest. It's great for, I'll tell you right now, it's great for content for my show. I'm excited. I urge her to do it. Run, baby, run. Pick up the wine glass and go. It's your time. All you need is a couple pills to calm you down, a couple sips of wine to level you out, and you run for president, baby. I believe in you. I got to take a break. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. Check out all the other great shows and our good friends over at KLRN Radio. Be back right after.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. And in case you were wondering who we're fighting against and voting against, let me remind you.
Good morning and fuck you, MAGA. Fuck you. I hate you all. I fucking hate you guys. You are the biggest embarrassment in this fucking country.
Uh-huh.
Other countries are laughing at us. Except for the ones who are dying because of us.
Uh-huh.
Because of you.
What country's dying because of us? What country's dying because of us? Tell me.
I fucking hate you so much. You are hateful.
Who do we hate?
You are uneducated.
How am I uneducated?
Unless you're rich.
And then you like
racist.
Oh, I see. Racist.
But the bottom line is, you maggots are exactly that. You are maggots. Good morning and fuck you, MAGA.
So if you're wondering who you're arguing with online, it's that little angel right there who honestly, that's probably the most coherent that she's been in years. I mean, let's be honest. So she should actually be thanking us for bringing that out of her, for bringing her to the point that she's like coherent again. You're welcome, is what I mean to say. You're welcome, madam. So speaking of incoherent and absolutely batshit crazy, let's talk about France. Let's talk about Canada. Let's talk about England. Prime Minister Carney up there in Canada released this statement today. They recognize Palestine as a state. Now, over the weekend, England and France did just the same. They're going to recognize Palestine as a state. So, in other words, they approve of a government like Hamas to run a country, have the same ability and access that other countries have. Because of why? Because of why? Because they're trying to appease the people who have invaded their countries back home. That's what this comes down to. It's full on fucking appeasement. They're trying to get the pro-Palestinian protests to stop, especially in the UK, and the anti-white rhetoric to stop, especially in the UK. But Canada has it as well. Canada Heavy Haul will tell you all about it. France has had problems with the Muslim immigrants who've come over and caused havoc and chaos. Havos, as I almost said, havoc and chaos mixed together. It's even worse. So all three countries have both released statements supporting the recognition. It's framed as a two-state solution, which essentially says, hey, I am okay with the government of Gaza, which will be a terrorist nation much like Iran. It'll just be a mini-me for Iran, living next door to people that it's been trying to murder for years now. Mind you, October 7th, 2023, 1,200 Israelis were killed, 250 hostages were taken, 30 Americans are dead. War crimes included mass essay, beheading, deliberate targeting of citizens. And now we want to recognize them. We don't. They do. Want to recognize them as a nation. This has nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza. This has nothing to do with, look, just like the illegals here, are the Democrats here are using illegals as a prop. Hey, look at this. Look, I have this, and I really like this, and this is super nice, and they do things for me. Please vote for me. That's exactly what's going on in these three countries. All three of these countries have severe immigration problems. All three of these countries, and even, I remember, Carney barely won. He barely beat out Pierre. It's not looking good right now for Starmer. As a matter of fact, Trump was just there over the weekend and slapped him in the face verbally by talking about freedom of speech and immigration. France, it was a squeaker the last time. All three of these leaders are barely holding on, and immigration's a huge problem. And the violence from these immigrants are a problem. So what are they going to do to try to appease them? Recognize Palestine. Why? Not our fucking problem. After they become a country and they start getting access to more things, and Hamas is going to be in charge, because Hamas has been in charge for years because of violence, because they murder their own people who don't vote for them. Hamas is currently stealing all the food that they're claiming isn't getting into Palestine, and they're selling it on the market for money for themselves. That is what Hamas is doing. That has been absolutely verified numerous times. They want Hamas to run the nation right next to Israel. What, give them a seat at the UN? Why don't you put them on the Security Council and give them a veto? Why don't you, I don't know, allow North Korea, Russia, and all these other countries to start putting weapons in there right next to Israel? It's not my fucking problem. That's what all three of those countries are saying. Israel can deal with that. I need to stop the violence here. We're going to lose our phony baloney jobs, gentlemen. That's what this is all about. It's about appeasement. It's cowardice, and it never, ever, ever works. I mean, this is Neville Chamberlain's appeasement in 1938. It's the same thing. all you're doing is emboldening them. Now, if you turn around and said, hey, you get rid of Hamas and then come talk to us and maybe we'll have a conversation later, at least that has some sort of backbone. But they're not even doing, they will never do that. They don't care because it's not their problem. They're throwing Israel under the bus. And I don't care how you feel about Israel. I've said this before. Look at the optics here. Not who's going to end up being victimized even. Look at why they are doing this. It's because of problems at home. And it's cowardice. And it's horrible. And it's horrific. And something absolutely needs to be done about it. I mean, this is what happens when you have limp-wristed pussies running governments. This is exactly what's happening. Is all of a sudden they're in trouble. They don't know what to do. It's not looking good for them. So they turned around and said, oh, yeah, we'll recognize Palestine because that's the best thing that can happen for us. Because hopefully the people that are causing violence here will say, oh, good, look, they love terrorist organizations. Maybe we should stop killing them and attacking them and ruining their society. Know somebody who was in France very recently who said Paris is an absolute shithole. It's gross and it's everywhere. Ireland's not far behind it either. And, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's very, very true. So more good news. And this is just wonderful. I love this too. Have you ever heard of Media Matters? First and foremost, does this guy not look like he stole that wig directly from George Washington? This David Brock, the founder of Media Matters. So you remember Media Matters. There's this humongous leftist organization that claim they're not huge leftist organizations that do nothing but slam conservatives and claim to be non-biased. They've lost so many lawsuits and they've just been taking it to the chin, so much so that guy might have wooden teeth, just to go with that hair, that they're talking about that they might have to close its doors. That's so fucking awesome. They're drowning in $15 million in legal bills alone. They've tried to settle. Elon Musk has a lawsuit against them. They tried to settle and he said no. And if you go down and you scroll through, they were some of their biggest donors, as it says here, was George Soros and Susie Buell. And apparently they're no longer around. I mean, they're around, but they're not giving them money. And it gets worse and worse. And you know what I say? I'll be honest. It couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. Look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am a pundit. I have my opinions. This whole show is opinionated. I talk about facts. I talk about history. But a lot of the show is my opinion. I do not claim to be an unbiased news outlet. I am not a journalist. These people who go out there under the view of being unbiased and trying to be essentially fact checkers. Where have all the fucking fact checkers gone? You notice how that term has completely gone out the window recently. Even Democrats don't even remotely talk about fact checkers. You know why? Because finally people woke up to the fact that many of us have been screaming for years. The fact checkers aren't fact checkers. They just get enough evidence to prove their point, and they ignore all the evidence that disproves their point, and they call this a fact. Oh, it's a fact. This is facts. No. Facts are proven in science. Facts are something that are proven beyond a doubt. That's a truth. That's a truth that is believed by many, is what you're presenting as fact. And there's a difference. People believe a lot of things to be true, but that doesn't mean factually they are. It's a very, very, very different set of circumstances, a very different definition between facts and truth. So Media Matters is hopefully going to be gone here pretty soon. There's some other really intelligent news going around, just really smart people saying things that are 100%. Oh, this is another fact too. And Eric Adams is going to share this one with us. And I hope you enjoy Eric Adams' facts.
We cannot respond to senseless gun laws through vigils. It must be responded through legislation. It is time to turn the corner of a society where automatic weapons are as easy to get as a cell phone.
So, Eric,
We
I beg
cannot-
you to tell me, and I mean this, where? Where is that happening? Where can I get an automatic weapon easier than I can get a cell phone? Because I'll tell you right now, all the Obama phone stands are still out there all over the place. But to get an automatic weapon is damn near an act of Congress to do. And I know, they just had a shooting in New York, and it was horrible, and it was with a long gun, and that should automatically mean that we should just ban everybody because somebody had a history of mental health to the point that even the police department knew about it, but nothing was done about it. And some people died. By the way, follow up on that. Allegedly, it's looking like he was there for the NFL, which is even more weird than that whole situation. And yes, it's absolutely tragic that people lost lives. I'm not going to deny that. But denying people of our constitutional rights that were given to us by our creator, Congress, the founders put that in the Constitution for a reason. For a reason. Inalienable rights. In other words, you can't take it away. And they actually had a very specific one called the Second Amendment for a reason. You're not going to get another two-way ban. No, you're going to start actually dealing with what the problems are in society. And maybe this kid did have CTE, and that's a tragedy. But why wasn't that dealt with? Where were the families? Where were the friends? How is it that has calls for service with the police department and nothing more was done with that? Because we don't take mental health serious in this country. We just don't. I'm sorry, we just don't. From all of the homeless people that are absolutely out of their damn minds right now, walking around California, they're all over the place. And I know Trump just signed the executive order to start bringing these people in off the streets, but there's been a problem going on for years. We've allowed the insane to walk around and people to be victimized from it. And yes, should they be treated with dignity? 100%, but that doesn't mean they should be strolling around with their pants off, taking a dump against a restaurant window. I've seen that happen while I was eating dinner in Sacramento. The problem is mental health, and we need to take it seriously. Let's see. BZ is sharing the chat that it looks like a police officer was shot somewhere near in Tampa near Busch Gardens. He was rushed to the hospital, so we wish them well. It's absolutely crazy. We need to do something about it because mental health. Look, I'll give you another situation where somebody with a mental health issue attacked a bunch of people, and a hero with a gun actually stopped it. And here's who I'm talking about right here. Traverse City, Michigan, over the weekend, stabbing on the 26th of Saturday. Suspect is Brandon Guile, 42, armed with a folding blade. 11 people were injured, 5 in serious condition, 6 critical, all expected to survive at this point. Who is the hero? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I need to buy this guy a box of gourmet crayons because he was, in fact, a former Marine, which I hate saying former Marine because every Marine says, we're always a Marine. We're not former Marines. We're not ex-Marines. We're just Marines. So he is a Marine who is no longer in service. He works at a hospital and has a license to carry, or a CCW, depending on where you're from. His name is Derek Perry, and he's the gentleman smiling on the left with glasses, and he is a hero. Now, we can all talk about how he was holding his weapon. That's a whole different conversation. He would have cut his hands up pretty good if he actually had to shoot. But this hero turned around and recognized a situation where he, with a firearm, could interject and potentially de-escalate one way or the other, and he did. And if you watch the videos, Mr. Perry is giving loud, clear commands. He is articulating what he will do if the guy doesn't drop the knife. He held him at gunpoint until the police arrived. So yes, there are horrible stories about loss of life, but there are also stories of preservation of life with firearms. And this gentleman right here, Mr. Perry, is a hero for doing what he did. Now, Guile, however you want to pronounce his last name, the suspect, has a long history of mental illness. He was found guilty by reason of insanity, or not guilty by reason of insanity in a previous case. He was ordered detained by the court just 24 hours prior to the attack and authorities failed to locate him. He's being charged with terrorism and 11 counts of attempted murder. Terrorism, the state charge, not the federal charge. I believe when they have a specific state code where if you attack a group of people or in a public place and you're attacking just randomly multiple, it's considered causing terror, but it's not the politically motivated terrorism charge that we know in this country to be terrorism. So you have within a few days 2 polar opposite examples of what can happen. You have a gentleman who had training, had experience, has a set of stones on him that somehow fit into his pants, who stepped up when the situation needed it and was a wonderful citizen, an amazing citizen, and protected people around him. This is the people we need more of in this country. This is the type of guy that we need more of, females too. People who will step up when the situation requires it. He didn't sign up for that. He wasn't a peace officer. He didn't answer a call for service. He was shopping at a Walmart on a Saturday. And a psycho started slashing people up. And he said, hey, I have the tools. I have the knowledge. I'm going to put an end to this and try to stop it. And nobody was attacked after he intervened. After he intervened, nobody else was harmed because of his intervention. And he had his weapon. And he did it the right way. Yes, there are bad guys with guns, and that's horrible. But guess what? As we've seen in Nice, France, and other places, bad guys with guns will do something even if you remove the guns. This bad guy had a knife. No real training. 11 people stabbed. What'd I say? 5 critical? 6 critical? Fortunately, they're all expected to survive. We've seen edged weapon attacks all over the world. It's not uncommon. Look at the UK. Look at Europe in general. And Australia. Edged weapon attacks at China. Kill 20 people. It's happened numerous times. It's not a one-off thing. It doesn't happen rarely. It just doesn't happen a lot here. But let's say you remove the guns. Let's say you remove the knives. Well, then you'll have vehicle-borne attacks where people will get into vehicles and either arm them with explosives. As we've seen, there was a story a couple weeks ago out of New York where there was a stolen van that was filled with gasoline and propane tanks that was found in New York City. And it was either stolen or the license was expired. And when the officers stopped to engage a traffic stop, the suspect took off and they never identified him. But you had an attack like that, 10 years ago in New York City, where a guy tried to light off propane in Times Square. It just didn't work. You had a vehicle-borne attack in the name of terrorism in New York a couple of years ago. We had a vehicle-borne attack just this past year down in Louisiana. So vehicle attacks is where they'll go next. By the way, somebody correct me in the chat room, maybe I'm wrong. The guy in Louisiana had a long gun, but he got out with it, and he was just not allowed to use it because good guys with guns were there. Knives do scare me more than gunshots because knives, they can do a lot of knives are frightening because sometimes you won't even know if the person walks up to you has one, just slices and goes. And that's happened a few times where these psychos randomly run up behind people and stab them in the throat and leave. It's not the tool used that's the problem in this country. It's the mental health that's not being dealt with. And I could say this over and over and over again, but we don't deal with it. Yes, Trump just did something that I hope actually leads to progress. But it's something that had to have been done. And look, I say a lot of good things about Ronald Reagan. The worst thing Ronald Reagan did in California was get rid of the asylums. And yes, I know the word asylum brings up horrors of the early 1900s where you had special needs kids who were trapped in a chain. We don't do that anymore. Trust me, it does not happen anymore, right? Even in state mental hospitals, it doesn't happen like that anymore. We have so many ethics rules and HIPAA and so many other things that stop the mistreatment of the mentally ill. But letting them out in the street and letting them just run around is not an answer. I said this before. You're trusting people who can't take care of themselves, wash themselves, remember to put on both shoes, who are talking to a wall, yada, yada, yada. You're trusting them to show up somewhere once a week take medication, not down the whole week's worth or sell them off or whatever, and then take care of themselves for the next week or 2 weeks of the month until it's time to once again get more medication. Right? You're trusting them to do that, and it's just not realistic. And yes, there are various levels of mental illness. I'm not saying if you have any mental illness, then you should immediately go into an asylum. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if you can't care for yourself and you are a threat to somebody else, then we talk all the time about treating people fairly and treating people with dignity. And yet, shouldn't we be treating the mentally ill the same way? And I'm not talking about the town drunk who lays on the street. You know, I can remember we had a couple of the Croteau brothers and a couple of other town drunks. And they didn't bother anyone. They just hid under a tree. Occasionally they get into fights or something like that or steal a bottle of liquor, but they weren't violently going after people. They weren't attacking people who looked at them. They would hang across the street from the train station. Everyone knew where they were 24 hours a day. And they would drink their little vodka and not bother anybody. That's not who I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about these people, and don't pretend you haven't seen them. And don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. We're talking about these people who are literally defecating into their hands and wiping it onto their face, who are walking down the street with a gigantic stick and randomly swinging at people and doing it because they think they see aliens. No offense, Jeff. They're doing, those are the type of people who need help. And this guy right here, obviously, if you win a court case by reason of insanity and the case essentially gets dismissed, why do you get thrown back out in the street? Nobody can answer the question. We've said this for years on Sackheads and here. The lack of mental health care in this country is absolutely unbelievable. You can look, if you want to be 500 pounds and drink gravy for dinner every single night, and you go in and have a heart attack, guess what? You're going to be taken care of. Right up to you can walk out of there until your next heart attack. Right? We have that sort of healthcare treatment. But we don't have a place where somebody, and look, I've worked law enforcement for a long time. Others have too. You actually have people who come to you and say, I need help. I feel like I'm about to do something bad, yada, yada, yada. And the services for them are nil, next to nothing. And those are the very rare few that actually know they need help and want to do something about it. There are numerous stories of people who've committed horrific crimes and have heard voices in their head or whatever who said, yeah, I told people that was happening. I told people this was going to happen. BZ, I wasn't describing you when I said the 5 heart attacks and drinking gravy. I mean, I could have been, but I wasn't, is what I'm saying. And it's something that it hits close to home for me. I have somebody who I love very much who deals with the mental health crisis, and getting care for a juvenile in with mental health crisis is next to impossible. The professionals, the people we were supposed to turn to for help said, well, once he starts getting in trouble with the courts, then maybe they can start doing something. To which our response was, well, why do we have to wait that long? We're telling you now before it happens. We don't want that to happen. He doesn't need to be in the courts. He just needs to get treatment. And it was an act of God, and you had to get lawyers and everything else to finally get the treatment he needed. So it's very, very, very personal to me, but it should be very personable to you too. I know we have a tendency in this country to walk by the homeless and the mentally insane and just be like, there's another lunatic. And I'm not talking about the crackheads. Sometimes they're both. But I'm talking about the ones who are legitimately mentally ill. Some of them are veterans, people that served our nation, people that we're supposed to take care of because they raised their hand to take care of us. And we do nothing about it. It's extra money. If you want mental health treatment in this country, it's actually extra money. You want to see a therapist because you're you're depressed or whatever? Oh yeah, no, insurance doesn't cover that. Extra money. It's going to cost you extra money. It's right up there with dentistry and eyes, which are somehow not part of the human body. And all of this could be fixed by Congress, by the way. Congress has the ability to fix a lot of this stuff. Like they did with the car insurance markets, like they did with cable. They just actually have to do something. And they're not, because the hospitals are paying them not to. Plain and simple. The hospital groups, the groups that own hospitals, and there are a lot of them out there, are not good people. They're just jerks. And I'm not for a big government guy and government intervention, but there is a point in this time, in this country, where the government has to stand up. And not Obamacare. Obamacare has made things 1,000 times worse. I don't want the government to take over healthcare. That's a horrible idea. It's the worst idea ever. But what I want is them to be competitive and forced to have competition and not just own an entire part of a state, where, by the way, the hospital owns part of the insurance company, and they also own the pharmacies. The insurance companies do, and the hospitals own some of them, and they don't talk about that, but it's entirely true. A lot of your insurance companies own a lot of pharmacies, or make it so it's next to impossible for the pharmacy to do business without them. It's not weird in the sense of it's an everyday occurrence, but it's also extremely tragic and it needs to be dealt with soon. That's it for me here. I will be back Monday evening, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. But hey, it's not just me on SHI. I'm just the guy with the funny accent. Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men with my good friend Big E. Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have the blow-eating Zeppelin, the gravy drinker himself, Berserk Bobcat Saloon, right here on the SHI Media Network. Mondays and Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. You have the Reaver of Common Sense, my good bud Jersey Joe. And then on Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific, you have the Lost Wanderer Show. You never know what it's going to be about, but it's always going to be entertaining, and you're going to learn something whether you like it or not. Folks, that's it for me. I'll check you out on Monday. Have a great rest of your week.